What is good, everybody? Hope you're all doing well. This is Wooly Gamer, host of the Worldwide Company of Gamers podcast. Just a quick disclaimer and rundown of what this show is. This is not the Worldwide Company of Gamers podcast that you're watching right now. This is actually something that's a little unorthodox I've not done before, but this is pre-recorded footage of a Twitter Spaces that took place the day after the last episode of the Worldwide Company of Gamers podcast. This Spaces was hosted by Guapzilla and myself, as well as Retro, you know him from the show, and OT. Social Destruct also jumped on, had a few things to say as well, which was awesome. Basically, long story short, Guapzilla was so impressed by the information we had received in episode 30 of the Worldwide Company of Gamers podcast that he felt absolutely compelled to host a Spaces to talk about it. And that's what this is. I figured it would be great to record the bulk of it, probably not all as it's 3 hours, but record the majority of it, and just to put this onto the channel. Please forgive the cussing occasionally, and it's a little less formal on Spaces, and things were passionate, and a lot of these narratives that are spun in the gaming medium space, especially via journalists and people who tend to lap misinformation up and regurgitate, it does get me a little passionate, and I try to restrain myself on the official Company of Gamers show for obvious reasons, to maintain a level of professionalism. But on Spaces, I'm a little less restrained, so to speak. So just a disclaimer there. I do hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed more so episode 30, where we interviewed Michael Mumbauer, sat down with him, and had an incredible show. Just before we start this recording, I do just want to say, what I had learned from Michael Mumbauer was next level. The level of appreciation that I gained from that interview, it's a milestone for me. It's up there with NXG easily, because in many ways, Michael, being the visionary that he is, he's truly he's played a major part in game development getting to where it is today. If it wasn't for him, maybe somebody else would have picked up the mantle. Maybe not, but it seems like he saw a need for innovation 20 years ago, and he pursued it. And it's thanks to him, bringing what he worked on in films such as Beowulf, Polar Express, and I Am Legend, etc. It's thanks to him bringing those and implementing those things over into the gaming space that we ended up with Uncharted 2, Uncharted 3, and then we got to incredible levels of animation quality in Uncharted 4, Death Stranding, God of War 2018, all of which are games he's worked on. He addressed many false narratives that we managed to get some clarity about regarding Visual Arts Studio. We know there was a rumor going around that this was a largely kind of left on the side, small little B-team studio that wanted to make a name for themselves, and a rogue collection of developers had aspirations to work on something for a change instead of just supporting. And that whole narrative that was spun by journalists, major journalists, well, Michael had a few things to say about that, and he really set the record straight, which was incredible to hear. And it really deepened my appreciation for Visual Arts Studio, that they're not just a support studio. They're not anymore anyway. They used to be, But Michael joined them with the goal of nurturing them into something greater, to nurturing them into the next Blue Point, the next, Insomniac, and bringing their skill set and quality to a level where they can create something truly amazing and not just help others create something truly amazing. And hence, that's what we got with The Last of Us Remake. And he addressed the issue with Naughty Dog taking over the project. The journalists tended to spin that story as Naughty Dog stole it from them. But he addressed very clearly that not only was there no rogue group of developers underhandedly trying to make something great, it was all done with Sony's full backing, and Visual Arts got to work on The Last of Us Remake. But it wasn't stolen from them either, because there always comes a point in time where a project gets to the point where you need more people. And Naughty Dog was that more people. And Naughty Dog came on board and assisted in the development of the project. But it is still a Naughty Dog game. And, however, Michael Mumbauer did very much address the fact that it wasn't stolen from them, so to speak. Certainly he didn't have that opinion. And that he's very grateful to Naughty Dog for being there since day one, he said, in helping them develop The Last of Us Remake. And it was thanks to them, he said, it's thanks to Naughty Dog, that Visual Arts were able to work on The Last of Us Remake at all, that The Last of Us Remake even was a thing. So he also emphasized the fact that The Last of Us Remake was a key part in nurturing the talent of Visual Arts. And, more and more incredible revelations came to light. And then he touched on and spoke about at length for about half an hour his new ambitions with John Garvin, and how the systems of Web 3.0 can truly change game design. Regardless of your thoughts and hesitations about the potential of monetization and the abuse of monetization that companies will have, it being no different to microtransactions, I guess you could say. The status quo in the gaming space today isn't exactly great, with the microtransaction galore that we have in the gaming space, the free-to-play, pay-to-win models as well, like the Diablo effect, The status quo isn't great right now, but Michael Mumbauer has a vision and a goal, along with John Garvin, to not only change game design using systems of Web 3.0, which sound truly revolutionary, but it's not his goal to cash grab, and there's a reason why many people have their hesitations about Web 3.0, but there's a lack of knowledge as well going around regarding it, and people are only thinking about the financial aspect of monetization rather than what the actual systems of Web 3.0 could offer game design, and that's the key thing here. So Michael goes into length about his ambition and his vision. Being a creative mind, his goal is to create and improve and continue to push the gaming space forward, and that's what I got from this anyway. I certainly got that impression. I don't think it's his goal just to be a CEO getting rich off the hard work of others. Certainly not. Certainly never ever displayed that kind of character, and I have no reason to believe or to take in bad faith. I have no reason to take in bad faith Michael Mumbauer's intentions. He's only ever had good intentions for the industry. So there's a lot that's discussed in this show. Please give episode 30 a listen of the Worldwide Company of Gamers podcast. I know you will love it. I certainly did. The panel did. We learnt a lot. And there was some good debates as well in the show as well. It was just a phenomenal show. It's definitely a milestone where a lot of things were corrected. A lot of information was given, and a lot of megaton drops of mic drops happened with regards to information enlightening and bringing to the fore a perspective that we hadn't yet considered. So for those who haven't looked into Michael Mumbauer's history, do check out his LinkedIn. You will be absolutely blown away at the pedigree we are talking about when it comes to his career and his experience. And you might not see everything that he sees coming to reality. I guess that's where a creative mind comes in. Not everything works out, but one thing you can be damn sure about is the experience that Michael has, and I really do believe that he has ideas that, if realized, will be truly awesome to witness. So enjoy the spaces, guys. Hope you enjoy it. And yeah, I'm going to mute my mic and let you enjoy. Cheers.
Hey, what's up, Wooly? Good morning, y'all.
Hey, brother.
Just gonna take a few moments to let a few people roll in, then we
Yeah,
can get
sure
the
thing.
conversation. Obviously, you guys had your podcast yesterday, which was an absolute smash. So we were just gonna
Good to
do
hear
this
that,
to
mate.
discuss,
My dude.
yeah. So we can just discuss some of the revelations that were unearthed during your podcast yesterday. In regard to The Last of Us Part One and its remake for the PlayStation 5 and PC. You had Mr. Michael Mumbauer on your show, who was I would say, the creative lead on getting the project started. Um, so he shed some light on as to why The Last of Us Part One exists, what Visual Arts has done for Sony, and what they mean for as a support studio, and how they're attempting to transition into a true first party powerhouse under the Sony umbrella. So, is there anything you wanted to get out of the way first and foremost, Willie?
Uh,
True first party.
uh,
Um,
bear with me, dude. Just getting my bearings. I'm just sending this out to a few people. Um,
all right.
bear with me.
Yeah, people are rolling in, so I'm gonna just
Nice.
give them a couple minutes and see if people show up. I'm gonna share it out again as
I'm
well.
a, I'm an absolutely terrible multitasker, Guap. What were you saying? What did you ask me?
Oh, I was just giving the rundown from my perspective, so I'm not sure if you want to do the same. Let me send you a
Yeah.
co-host invite.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. Hey, we got Retro here from the show as well. Innate, what's good? Wilson, good to see you. Yeah, so for those listening, we had the Company of Gamers podcast last night. You'll have to forgive me, guys. I'm struggling to speak today.
Yeah,
My throat,
definitely take your time. Take your
yeah, my
time. The mute
windpipe
button is your
is
friend.
absolutely fucked. Pardon my French, because I was talking a lot last night, and I think the stress of it all. Just obviously, it's flawed me because I'm still recovering from COVID. Um, but yeah, the podcast last night was insane. It was an absolute eye opening kind of debunk fest. It really exposed a lot of the hypocrisy in journalism. Um, the sensationalizing of events to skew the narrative, and people when I think that when people really stop for a minute, cut the bullshit, and really stop and just think, and actually think honestly and rationally, they know it's sensationalist bullshit. But they eat that shit up. They love to perpetrate it. They love to share it out and indulge it because it's drama, and it's fun, and it's addictive, and they'll run with these narratives. And so we're suckers because we fall for it. And when I say we, I don't mean specifically me or you or anyone here. I mean in general, we as people, especially in the Twitter community. Um, Michael Mumbauer is, and guys, I cannot stress enough what kind of pedigree Michael Mumbauer has when it comes to the gaming and media and film industry as well. All the classic films that spearheaded animation, think Polar Express, Beowulf. He was behind. He helped with that. He assisted in that. But what he also did is he helped develop and take what Beowulf did and Polar Express did and apply it to video games. Uncharted 2. He was a creative lead behind Uncharted 2 and other incredible games. Uncharted 3, Uncharted 4. Death Stranding, he assisted with that in visual arts. God of War, he's assisted in, and he never would consider himself tied down specifically to the motion capture technology. He helped spearhead motion capture and improve it, because at the time when motion capture was being abandoned by the film industry, let alone the games industry, he saw the need for it to be pushed, and because otherwise we would never have got The Last of Us and things that are of that quality. We would have still been in the Enter the Matrix mode, where body movement was stiff and a little ugly. But for the push for realism and immersion and believability, he saw the need that this was a requirement to push the quality of video games, and so that's very much what Michael Mumbauer prides himself in, is that he's not the motion capture guy or anything like that. And in this in the new case, he's not the NFT guy either. He's someone who sees an opportunity to progress the gaming space forward and has a vision and chases it. Similar, I guess you could say, to John Garvin in ways, except when you look at Michael Mumbauer's CV, it's freaking ridiculous. I can't understate. Oh, I can't overstate that.
So is it fair to say that he had a large hand in Sony crafting their first party into be these not only gameplay riddled, obviously they have multiple deep gameplay systems in any of the games you can associate Sony's first party with, but also to that more cinematic experience where, so he has experience in the movie industry, most notably with movies like Beowulf, and I believe you said Polar Express, which are very highly detailed CGI related films. So it's
I Am Legend as well. He worked on that.
Okay. Yeah, that's mind blowing to me. So he's taken in his experience from the movies, and he's bringing that into gaming space in order to help grow the gaming space, which obviously was successful, because now here we are 10, 15 years later, post his work, and Sony's at the top when it comes to cinematic experiences in gaming and pushing storytelling forward in the medium, as well as their visual presentation. So that was something that was very interesting to me, that he revealed, that he had such a large hand in molding what we know AAA experiences to be. So shout out to Michael Mumbauer in that way as well.
Yeah, facts. The way I would describe him is he has his hand in a lot of pots, but his hand is in pots where there is a need for improvement and a need for progress. And that's literally who Michael Mumbauer is. It's why he's considered and so highly esteemed in the gaming industry by the biggest names. He's renowned. He's a visionary, and for him to, we had the opportunity and the privilege of asking him straight up. Mr. Mumbauer, was The Last of Us remake robbed from Visual Arts Group studio? The narrative is poor little Visual Arts had a way, wanted to be recognized and have their name be put on the map and do more than just being a poor little support studio who does menial work. And this is the way that I'm just going to say it, the way that Jason Schreier and the way that other journalists who reiterated it and just proliferated this narrative portrayed the way the elitist kind of attitude. They portrayed an elitist attitude for the top dogs, pardon the pun, at Naughty Dog against the little guy. But visual arts is not the little guy, and this is what he brought to light. What Michael Mumbauer revealed about the visual arts studio is not only was The Last of Us remake an opportunity that they loved to take full advantage of for the studio to be nurtured in their developmental talent in making video games and to learn processes and apply all that they've learned into a culmination of work as a studio. It was literally a way to nurture the talent at visual arts. The Last of Us remake was also not taken from them, but Naughty Dog had a huge hand in making this possible from day one.
Just to add, Willie, he reiterated that Sony knew every step of the way what visual arts were doing. There was no secret starting of a project. There was no little secret group within visual arts. It was all above board. And he also stated that the way Sony has its team set up, not everything that started somewhere finishes off there. He says there is a lot of moving about and a lot of different departments working on different pieces of the pie. So there was nothing stolen, or there was no secrets. There was no. He said there was nothing. Not what was the word he used? Nothing. Nothing untoward.
Rogue. Nothing rogue.
Yeah. Just wanted to add that bit.
No, that's a really important point. On top of all of this, maybe Jason Schreier was stuck in the past with regards to how he viewed visual arts, because Michael Mumbauer on his LinkedIn profile mentions himself how he brought a relatively underappreciated or underrecognized small team and nurtured them to become a massive facet in AAA groundbreaking video game development. And I'm guessing he's referring to visual arts there. So, and maybe at one point visual arts we didn't know about visual arts 5 years ago. I mean, like we weren't really aware of who they were. But they've become far more prominent in game development recently. And that's largely thanks to how Sony approach portioning out roles and responsibilities to assist game devs. It's not literally throw all the menial tasks to this guy, and nor is it game developers are sat in a studio and they have to literally develop the game ground up and create the systems to implement the systems into tangible assets, and then work the assets and the systems together to create video games. What they do is they proportion out the groundwork, the systems, the AI, the motion capture, the animations, really big, amazing game development focused work. And they ask visual arts and no doubt other groups, smaller groups, not just to work on creating those systems, but excel in them, like push the boundary in them. And that's why visual arts has such incredible talent, is that Michael Mumbauer saw an opportunity where small teams could be nurtured into the next Insomniac, the next Guerrilla, the future Naughty Dog. And that is what, in essence, visual arts are becoming. They are being nurtured thanks to these incredible projects that they're working on, and all these experience. They had a hand in Death Stranding with Hideo Kojima. They've had a hand in so many massive games, and a lot of it is thanks to Michael Mumbauer pushing for that to happen, and it's obviously shaped the way Sony, PlayStation, literally, it's shaped their attitude towards how games are developed. It's shaped the way studios work with other studios, and it's a system that works and nurtures talent at the same time. I just thought it was incredible how he broke it all down. But yeah, he
Yeah,
did
it makes
debunk
a
a lot
lot
of
of
these
sense.
narratives.
And it's almost like lateral development, right? Jason Schreier tried to paint it as if visual arts was working in secrecy behind Naughty Dog's back, trying to develop their own project, which was The Last of Us Part 1. But then when you think about it, if this is a $50 million game, you're not getting a $50 million project off the ground in secret behind anybody's back. So Michael was very transparent in that regard, especially when he spoke about how he envision visual arts being a place where new talent could come in and learn from some of the best in the industry. He said he's still very close with Naughty Dog. He's very close with Sony. I would have liked more details on his new project. That was the only thing, but there was just so much information to get through just based on the two revelations that he brought onto the table, specifically in regards to how the journalist tried to paint this picture of this project being like a side piece or not like a major production, and come to find out it is a major production. Something Naughty Dog's very passionate about, obviously something the people at Visual Arts are very passionate about. So shout out to them. We're not here to downplay their work, but to uplift it. And even if we're going to put it under the microscope as gamers, we have every right to do so. But for a journalist to try to control the narrative and dampen people's excitement for a game before it's even announced by Sony, to me is just very malicious. And I don't know why Jason Schreier consistently does this with Sony projects. He wrote a story about The Last of Us 2, talking about the crunch culture at Naughty Dog, and it was a very negative article where there was no sunshine at the end of the tunnel. We all know that regardless of what Naughty Dog did when The Last of Us came out, The Last of Us Part 2 came out, it became the most awarded game of all time. Conversely, he did a similar piece talking about Halo Infinite's development, which we all know was a tragedy and a debacle, but he tried to spin it and make it seem as if it was some sort of triumph because they got the 33%. Let's focus on that fact. The project that they ended up putting out was 33% of what they initially intended. It still doesn't have co-op to this day. It still doesn't have Forge to this day. The multiplayer is floundering. It's failing because they tried to make it a game as a service, but they didn't have adequate content to support it. So in every single measurable facet, it failed to have a next-gen impact. Every single measurable facet from a gamer's perspective, the game has been a disappointment. Yet in his article where he spoke briefly about their crunch culture and how they also used contract workers, he ended up turning the article around and called the development of Halo a triumph and a miracle that they got it out. When if you're a gamer and you can see for the past 8 months, more information is coming out about this game, developers are leaving left and right. It's incomplete. We still don't have all the features that were promised at launch, even after a year delay. So for me, it just rubbed me the wrong way that in one hand, when he spoke about The Last of Us 2, it was doom and gloom. This is the worst developed game ever. Boo-hoo, crunch. And then it comes out and it's the most awarded game of all time and the fastest selling first-party IP from Sony. Then we have Halo Infinite, which he called a triumph, but it's a catastrophic failure. And anybody with two eyes can see that. Regardless if you enjoy the multiplayer, it's still incomplete to this day. So it just shows that there is an inherent bias because he's willing to use words and energy on Sony that he reserves from using with their competitors. And for me, that's just totally disingenuous because it doesn't do a service to the consumer. It's actually handicapping the consumer's knowledge. So if you were listening to Jason Schreier, you'd believe Last of Us 2, bad game, Halo Infinite, greatest thing since sliced bread, and that's just simply not the case.
And let me tell you about Halo Infinite, right? I miss Leviathan Gamer a lot. He's somebody that I rate very highly and respect a huge amount. And unfortunately, he disappeared off the Twitter scene and left the podcast, which is something that you know, I'm really sad about. I really love the guy, but shout out to Leviathan Gamer, man. He's one of them insomniacs that stays up researching till 5 o'clock in the morning, living off flipping Monster energy drink to try, you know, keep awake whilst reading and researching. He's one of them kind of guys, right? And he put a link through investigating LinkedIn profiles. He was able to figure out the entire development cycle of Halo Infinite. And this is what he had to say. In 2014, Halo 6 enters development. 2015, Halo 6 nails its design and a prototype is made. 2016, Halo 6 is canned and rebooted as Halo Infinite. 2017, Halo Infinite has a prototype and they decide to make a new engine. 2018, Halo Infinite is revealed. The engine is being built. Any game assets made in Halo 5's engine are also being built in the Halo 5 engine to then later transfer over to the Slipstream engine once the engine is complete. By 2019, the engine meets its minimum requirements. It's not finished, but it meets its minimum requirements to build assets in it. Infinite pivots and decreases its scope, so it scales down its ambition because they realize that it's 2019 now. 5 years have passed since Halo 6 entered development originally, and they still haven't even got a game together. So this is in 2019. By 2020, the engine's graphics pipeline is built. The bulk of the game is hastily made, targeting a 2021 release. Once in beta, the game gets delayed. Sorry, it was originally targeting the 2020 release, and it only just started being built in 2020. 2021, the game is reworked. The engine is almost complete, but many Halo 5 legacy items still exist. The game releases. So literally within 2 years, the game is in essence built hastily and desperately, trying to transfer the Halo 6 engine, well, the Halo 5 engine, to all its assets over to the Slipstream engine and make new assets in an engine that is barely built. The engine development got canned in 2019 because they still needed a game to be made. Leviathan actually said that he can tell us exactly what happened. They overestimated how quickly building the engine would be. A 2 to 3 times faster engine to make content would have allowed them to achieve their goals in 3 years, but the engine still isn't done. Even today, it's not finished because they deprioritized it around 2019. And interestingly, it was 2019 when some of the most important names in Halo Infinite's development were let go because their contracts expired. Microsoft only hired them for 2-year contracts instead of giving them 4 years employment. And so when people were leaving and they still didn't have a game together, they were like, right, we got to cut content. And sure enough, that's exactly what they did. Around 66% of the content was scrapped. Now, you tell me that that's not an absolute shit show of a game development and that Microsoft didn't let 343 down. You tell me that they didn't do that. Of course they did. It's an absolute shit show. It's embarrassing. And Microsoft really let 343 down, and they really undervalued Halo as an IP. And they didn't help at all in its development. It was just a shit show. They were not sure how long to give the engine development. The engine needed more time. They didn't give them more time. They were like, put out a game already. There's only so much blame 343 can take and receive when a lot of the onus is on Microsoft's studio management. But Jason Schreier didn't tell you any of this shit. Hell no. But Naughty Dog is an evil elitist group who found this rogue little huddle of developers wanting to be bigger and wanting to make a name for themselves and stole their amazing, ambitious project off of them. That's what he claimed. But no, that's not the case at all. And Michael Mumbauer revealed that. In fact, he said how grateful he was to Naughty Dog for all their support and help and how they assisted Visual Arts from the start. So yeah, apologies for my rant.
No problem at all. We do have some people rolling in. I just want to clarify what this discussion is about. Yesterday on the Worldwide Company of Gamers podcast, hosted by Retro and Wooly, as well as a number of other prominent members in the community, most notably Odie, who everybody loves, obviously. And they spoke with Michael Mumbauer, who was formerly the head of the visual art studio under the Sony umbrella. And he gave a lot of in-depth detail on a number of things. Firstly, about how he assisted in transitioning the cinematic experience into the Sony first-party lineup with games like Uncharted 2, as he previously worked in the film industry on movies like Beowulf, I Am Legend, and The Polar Express. And you can see his imprint all over the Sony first party now. Now they're known for these deep, detailed cinematic experiences with industry-leading animation and visual design. And he stated that his desire with the visual arts studio was to create almost like a farm system where development talent could be nurtured and cultured alongside some of the industry-leading talent that is already under Sony's first-party umbrella with the Naughty Dogs and the Sucker Punches of the world. He subsequently moved on once that vision came to fruition, so shout out to Visual Arts. I'm looking forward to them developing a new IP of their own, hopefully one day. But they've already done stellar work on the Uncharted 2s of the world, Death Stranding, obviously The Last of Us Part 1. Shout out to Robert Morrison, who is in here, formerly employed at Visual Arts and worked extensively on The Last of Us Part 1. I'm looking forward to your work, Robert. Can't wait. But yesterday, Wooly interviewed Michael Mumbauer, and he gave so much information. I'm going to be honest, my head almost fucking exploded. Outside of him exposing the hypocrisy in journalism when it comes to Jason Schreier's hit pieces, he also gave us the history of visual arts and how Sony's first party has evolved into this multifaceted powerhouse. And he also gave us information on his future as well. He spoke in depth about the oncoming NFT onslaught in gaming and why people who really love gaming are trying to empower it in a positive way to the benefit of gamers. He gave a very clear example. If Sony was making a first party game, this is just me giving a summary of what I gleaned from what he was saying. If Sony were to make a first party game where you buy a Ferrari, right? This Ferrari is an item that would be attached to your account. So if they have any other games in their first party that would have vehicles in it per se, you wouldn't find yourself buying the same vehicle 4, 5, and 6 times against multiple games. Instead, you would just earn that item. It would be attached to your account. So any associated games within that engine space, you would be able to have access to that engine. It made a lot of sense to me. Some people tried to paint it as if he was selling it to us. I just took it as he was telling us what he's working on, what his vision is, take it or leave it type of attitude, right? He wasn't begging anybody to accept anything. He's just trying to educate us on the positives of what he believes the future of the game is. And with his new game that he's co-developing with John Garvin, I believe it's called Ashfall. I would have loved to get more details on the game, but the conversation was already so in depth with all of the information he previously shared. I definitely recommend everybody go check out the podcast because it's very informative. It's listed at the top of the screen. If you just scroll over, you can click on the tweet I shared, and the link directly to the podcast is there. I posted numerous 2-minute clips yesterday of what I thought was some of the most poignant moments. But again, like if you have a head for the history of gaming and also the future of gaming, and also a lot of details on one of the biggest visionaries we have in the gaming industry as a whole, I believe that podcast really would be a treat for you and something to listen to. So shout out to Wooly, Retro, Odie, and the boys, man. I was on the floor rolling. My head was exploding from all the information. I love that type of stuff. So shout out to y'all for doing that.
Oh man, I appreciate that, Guap. It's kind words coming from you, brother. It means a lot. The panel was gold, and Michael Mumbauer was freaking dynamite. Regarding the NFT thing, the penny dropped for me, and it hadn't dropped for me before. All I knew was NFT bad, but actually, there's certain things that kind of really excite me. And the thing is that Michael Mumbauer is a visionary, right? He's not here to sell to sell an idea to you and me. He's there to execute an idea. And whether it's successful or not is dependent on whether the customer or consumer sees value in it. But I don't see how, by logic, I wouldn't see value in it, because the current status quo isn't great, with microtransaction galore, the pay-to-win models in free-to-play games. It's not, you can't exactly stand there and tell me that the current monetization scene doesn't need a counter. And that counter is, well, the way I visioned it, and Michael actually agreed, and thought that it was a good illustration. Is, that Simpsons episode where Homer Simpson goes into the 3D real world, and he looks 3D. He looks different, but he's still Homer Simpson. And similarly, if I go to a publisher who says, join us, and what you buy you keep in every one of our games, and I buy an AK-47 in one game, and then I can have that AK-47 in a different game, it might look and play different, but it's still the AK-47 that I purchased. And my instead of buying one piece of music and having to buy that same music again and again and again to play on different devices, I only have to buy that piece of music once. It isn't logical. Do we want, as consumers, to have to buy that piece of music multiple times? Well, that's exactly what gaming industry is doing. It's making you buy the same shit over and over and over again. Recycled assets, recycled things. And what Michael's venture is hoping to do, along with John Garvin, is to not only achieve a counter to that, but think about the benefits. It would actually push for these developers who resell the same shit over and over and over again to us, the microtransaction focused, very heavy resellers of these assets, to actually be more pro-consumer and go, well, we can't do this anymore because people aren't going to do it anymore because these guys are offering a better solution that they're going for. No consumer in their right mind would choose buying the same shit a second or third time over only buying it once if you want it. And that's the key. Could it go ugly? I guess it could, but it could also go very, very right. And judging by Michael Mumbauer's pedigree and what he's achieved and how he has helped with his teams better the gaming industry, Michael doesn't sound like the kind of guy who wants to ruin gaming. He sounds like the kind of guy who wants to enhance gaming and wants to make it better. So I have no reason to doubt him or doubt his experience. And
I feel the same way, because
I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah. So I'm not here to totally co-sign what he was educating us on. I'm appreciative of the transparency, right? Rarely do we have developers sharing what they believe the future of gaming is with us before it's come to fruition. Obviously, he has a lot of work to do in educating people on the new IP in the new studio and just getting that information out there. So for him to come through and candidly speak about it and give us true inside information in that regard was a breath of fresh air. So I hope his vision does come to fruition. And if we are going to have this, because we are obviously, like, we hear almost daily about these companies looking for new ways to monetize, at least include gamers in the ground floor of that discussion so we can assist in the development and moving in a direction that benefits us and the corporations as well. Because if we're not included in the conversation, there's the potential for it only to be predatory to the benefit of the corporation. This is a very in-depth discussion and topic that's going to go on for years until we see a positive representation in gaming. I hope, for one, that there is some sort of positive representation. I play, obviously, a lot of Grand Theft Auto. Anybody that knows Grand Theft Auto knows they've had the same vehicles going back almost to the 90s. So what I see here is, if I was to buy a car in, let's say, Grand Theft Auto Online, if I buy like a Ford Mustang or whatever, then when Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out and it has its online component, if there's a version of that vehicle in that game, since I already own it in the previous iteration, I would just walk into the auto shop and walk out with a version of it. since I had previously purchased it. So that's how I envisioned it as somebody who plays a game that's riddled with microtransactions. Obviously, if you know anything about GTA Online, you don't need to spend any actual real world money. But you can buy 15 of the same car and just color it, one of them blue, one of them green, one of them pink, one of them yellow. So if this is leading to that consistency going forward with different iterations of online or live service games, it totally makes sense from that regard, right? We also discussed how limited items could be and how people could group together to buy a limited item out and then go out and sell that to the consumer, actually providing monetization to the user, which to me is music to my ears. It's a very nuanced discussion. The more transparent the developers are, I think the more confident gamers will be. We'll also be able to offer critiques so that they can evolve their strategy more to the benefit of both parties instead of benefiting one more than the other. With that said, I see Odie in the audience. I'd love for you to come up here, bro, and give your 2 cents on the discussion yesterday if you're not too busy. If anybody in the crowd would like to come up and speak or has any questions for the guys that hosted, you got to get to know these guys. They're doing really good work, reaching out to prominent developers and luminaries in the industry and getting them to give their side of the story. I believe you guys are also going to interview NX Gamer, who works with IGN to provide in-depth tech analysis. I'm looking forward to that as well because the work he's doing is very, very interesting to me. So I'm looking forward to that as well. I'm not sure if you have anything to reveal in that regard, but we just want to keep the conversation going. So don't hesitate to hit the request button if you want to come up here and speak if you have any insight on the topics at hand. But I'll let Wooly take it from there.
Yeah, thanks, brother. I appreciate it greatly. What I will say is, we had NX Gamer on 5 months ago on the show, and it's still to this day like equally as big a highlight for me. I've re-listened to that show so many times I cannot count because I'm just every time I listen to it I learn something new. What NX Gamer brought to the table was just gold, and I would advise everyone to go and see that on my YouTube channel on a Company of Gamers podcast. I think it was episode 20 or 21. I can't remember. You'll see it. NX Gamer, clear as day. NX Gamer was supposed to be on with Michael Mumbauer last night, but unfortunately he had a severe accident literally just before the show. He was cooking tea for his family, and he poured boiling hot gravy all over his hand, and it melted his ring to his finger, and really just messed him up. So he's in he's a little bit better. Checked up on him, and his hand's recovering. He had it in an ice bath, and he went to get medical treatment. But yeah, he was in a bad way with his hand. So shout out to NXG. He definitely wants to come on the show again.
Sorry to hear that. Yeah.
No worries. He wants to come on the show again, and let me tell you, that in itself is a huge endorsement for the show. It means that we're doing something right, and that's what really makes me so proud and so happy that this show is doing what I wanted it to do and to achieve, and that's just to provide a spotlight and information so that I can learn as much as the listener. I'm just a normal average dude who likes games. I'm not like Oti, who's a software architect, or flipping DZ, who's a developer. I'm just a guy who loves games. But on top of that, Michael Mumbauer last night, he gave us an additional half an hour of his time. We promised only an hour, and we ran overtime, but he was happy to do it. And the last half an hour was really passionate talk about where he wants to see progress in the games industry. So there's it made the penny drop for me in a lot of ways, and there's a lot that was said last night on the show that just, like you said, Guap, it blew my mind. And listening back today, I just couldn't believe it. I will be adding timestamps very soon. Just have to forgive me. I've been having a severe coughing fit for the last 3 hours. And right now I'm doing a little bit better, but it's been pretty bad because I'm still recovering from COVID. I have flipping, what do you call it, steroid inhalers and everything. So It's not been great, so just bear with me, but I will get it timestamped
Hey,
soon.
man, Godspeed on your recovery. COVID is no joke. Fuck COVID 2022. We're going to get this sickness out of here one way or another. We have Odie on the panel now. Odie, what's going on? How you doing today, bro?
Hey, thanks for inviting me, man. Yesterday, I'll be honest with you, the discussion was so enlightening because I didn't know much about this NFT stuff. The only thing I've heard about it is so negative from guys online on Twitter, and the way he explained it, the way Michael explained it, I began to see the potential, and I think you articulated yourself very well. The advantages are there, but sometimes I think people are so negative they don't really want to have a sober discussion just to understand what is being offered. So for me, I'm excited. I won't lie. He showed me that there is an avenue where this thing can be actually pro-consumer. So it'll fall onto the devs, and I think sometimes we shouldn't judge them before they've even done anything wrong, because that's what I feel the media has sort of done when it comes to NFTs, and especially anything that John is involved in, John Garvin, because the negativity sometimes is just unjustified. But when I look at Michael's portfolio and his ambition, Akira said it very well. He said, don't even just look at his portfolio and look at how much good he has done for the industry. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. So when I look at how he has advanced technology, his advanced animations, he's basically, I think his job is problem solver. That's what he seemed to be doing. And it just excited me because now I'm even looking at his game, and I was looking at how, based on what he has done before, I've got this feeling his game is going to be very advanced in terms of tech. So I don't know, the whole podcast and the information yesterday was just blowing my mind in terms of what was being revealed and what I'm now seeing ahead in terms of the industry.
Yeah, it was definitely mind opening. It's the thing that I got mostly from it was how Sony, like we spoke earlier about Microsoft Studio management and how it pales in comparison. But what Sony's doing that really impresses me is it's almost lateral development, right? So you have one studio spearheading a title, then you can have another studio who's very talented, like visual arts, coming in and assisting in that development. But they're also talented to the point where they could develop the game on their own, right? So it's almost like you have all of these big minds and these big brains in the room and all this talent, and instead of just honing in on one game or honing in on one idea, you have this lateral development going across where the developers are learning from each other, they're supporting each other. So I think Sony really did take heed in regard to the crunch culture. Anybody with a job, we all do overtime, we all do crunch. It's no secret. But what I see what they're doing is they're almost building like a web instead of a linear game design or linear game development. It's almost like they're building out this web of game development to assist in upholding a quality to a certain standard while simultaneously allowing them to polish games to the point that, in my opinion, currently has no equal on the market. And the first thing we saw when they dropped the 10-minute trailer of The Last of Us Part 1 was visually, like, it was just astounding. The animation, the lighting, the sound design, the destructible environments. So they're bringing all of these into this game, which already has its own skeleton because obviously it's a remake from the ground up. But they're doing that, and it allows them to hit new heights. And we have to put the spotlight on people like Michael Mumbauer because it's his mind and it's his vision that allowed that to become a reality and a benefit to gamers.
You know what I found also interesting is that, again, to deal with the negativity, when Jason Schreier tried to pass that piece saying that visual arts were played and they are the helpless victims, and I kept on thinking in my mind, because when I went on LinkedIn just to look at Michael's portfolio CV, anybody working in this video game industry would want to have The Last of Us remake on their portfolio. This whole thing, like they were victims. Being part of one of the greatest games in the world is not something which you look as a negative, but Jason tried to pass it off as a negative. And from the start, Michael now let us know that this thing was never meant to be just visual arts alone. This thing was always going to be collaborative. The Naughty Dog didn't come in at the last moment just to sweep it off. So I feel like sometimes I wish media would also hold their own accountable and say Jason Schreier misled people with what he was saying, because you're actually getting people who work in that visual art studio now speaking honestly. And I just think it's so frustrating when I see that. Even guys with like a Dreamcast guy who was busy saying there's no improvements to animations. You know, I just don't understand why there's no accountability for what the media say, yet it can harm devs and people who have put so much effort and work into the games we love. So for me, it really frustrates me, especially after yesterday learning the truth. I have no respect for Jason Schreier, no respect for guys like Dreamcast Guy, because they make the pieces about themselves. They sensationalize it for monetary gain or for clicks, and it's just it's a bit disgusting.
Yeah,
if you ask me.
and then to double down to save face, like for Dreamcast Guy to say on his show based on a leak, on a dirty ass leak of obviously a pre-build. It was obviously old footage. It was like way earlier on in development, because the way Ellie was repeating the same words over and over again. You know, the things just clearly weren't flattering, to say the least, and it was washed out as well. I mean, it was clearly a dirty leak, and to use that leak and jump the gun and say there are no new animations. That's literally what Dreamcast Guy said, his own words. The AI is terrible, he said. There's evidently no dismemberment. Like, he went on this list of saying things that were that the Naughty Dog 10-minute demo to just 12 hours later debunked and completely, from Joel shooting a shotgun and blowing a guy's head off, and the detail being crazy, to the animation system being pulled from hundreds of animations, and AI literally contextually decides which animation closest suits the scenario at any given time. That's the same tech that they use for The Last of Us 2. But just because Joel is bigger and gruffer and a little bit stiffer, that's Joel. That's literally his character. That's not a quality issue. That's literally how Joel moves. It's how he moved in The Last of Us 2 when you played him briefly. He isn't the same. He isn't the same character as Ellie. He will play how Joel plays. Anyway, like, he went on this whole list saying all these things, and then to later, even after the Naughty Dog reveal debunked all of this shit, he doubled down and he literally said, right, he said these words: "This is the quality game that Naughty Dog was so impressed by, that they took that game from the little studio who was originally making it and brought it in-house. This is quality. This looks like a third-party little B-team thing." That's what he said on Mooch's show. Word for word, I shit you not. I've got those
He
words
said that about
echoing.
the 10-minute trailer we saw.
Yeah, he said that about The Last of Us remake.
There's no third-party game that looks that good, not even close.
Despite he didn't just say third party, he said little third party B team thing, right? And then shout out to Brap podcast. Brap, he just said it as it was. Jay Barry as well, and also as well as those two, Jez grinds my gears, Jez 7780. Like, the three of those
Shout
who
out
were
to the
also on the
homies. Love
panel.
those guys.
The three of those amigos on the panel literally, very respectfully, just basically broke the shit that he just said down and countered it with all the improvements that are happening in The Last of Us remake. And he didn't have a voice after that. And then Strictly came on. Strictly Gaming, shout out to him, and he dealt the final blow.
We
and caused,
know what happened.
you know what happened. Anyway, the rest is history. But you know what's crazy is that here's some of the improvements, and I'm not listing all of them. This is not all of the improvements to The Last of Us remake. This is just some. But when is it Robert Morrison? Is that the developer? What's his name? Yeah, Robert Morrison.
He's
Shout out to
sitting in the
him.
front row.
Yeah,
Shout
shout
out
out
to
to you,
Robert.
good sir. Shout out to you. When he said this is the work of art at the highest level of care, like it freaking well shows, right? There is a scene where Joel is running past a window being shot through. The way the glass breaks and the bullets hit the objects in the room, like the level of debris and density is unlike anything I've ever seen before. So the unprecedented environmental physics and destructibility and environmental density that Naughty Dog said they have only dreamed about before is in this game. And the reason for that is because even The Last of Us 2, there are a lot of low resolution assets. There is the LOD distance is a problem in that game. Like 5 meters forward, things drop very quickly in quality. And it's not a diss on the game. It's still one of the best looking games ever made. It's just the fact that the hardware can't load in high quality assets quickly on the fly to keep up with the gameplay. It's not possible on a PS4 system, but that's not an issue anymore with the PS5, and it shows with the destructibility and the physics and the asset quality and density. All character animations are pooled from hundreds of different animations to give contextual accuracy, like The Last of Us 2. In-game character models are the same models as the cinematic models. And the facial animations. If you play The Last of Us, or you play even The Last of Us 2, or you play a game like God of War, you see NPC characters talking, or you see in-game characters talking in-game. It doesn't quite look. Well, it doesn't. It doesn't look anywhere close to a cinematic, right? The facial animations aren't. You see the mouth moving, but the eye movement, the facial movement, nothing seems to kind of fit the context of the conversation because it's just in game. Even Uncharted 4 has that same problem. The cinematics look incredible, but the gameplay moments where the character's talking, you look at their face, it's not anywhere close to the cinematics. Not the case with The Last of Us Remake. And that's what's setting this bar higher than The Last of Us 2. Again, in-game character conversations happening during gameplay with Ellie and Joel will have a whole new level of depth, right? Not only that, 3D audio. How will that change grounded mode when you're being hunted or you're hunting and you're relying on only your ears, not this super sense that you have in the on normal difficulties? It'll be incredible to be able to hear the enemy shuffling and where he is approximately with the acoustics and the directional audio. That'll add a whole new element to the gameplay. The AI system, NPC, enemy, and buddy systems, completely overhauled AI. Extensive haptic feedback implementation, permadeath, speedrun modes, unlockables, character and weapon customizations, a model viewer, and, by no means least, accessibility options that not only are on par with The Last of Us 2, but are greater than The Last of Us 2 because now there's full voice narration. Full voice narration. Now, you freaking tell me that that's just a remaster of a remaster.
Yeah, as well. Did you mention the AI? Don't forget
Yeah.
that got reworked, so they can now kind of work out where the enemies are going to be and move accordingly, or where the enemies are going to go. They can kind of work it out and move
Yeah.
accordingly, which I think is going to be quite cool.
And seamless transitions between cutscene and gameplay. It's going to be seamless, akin to The Last of Us 2 and God of War and stuff. It's not all going to be one shot, obviously. Well, I don't know, maybe, but what it means is every cutscene is a seamless transition into gameplay, not a loading screen.
For me, one of the things, like I was blown away by especially the detail in what these guys are trying to do. And but one of the things that bothers me about guys on Twitter and journalists, it's like I think we have forgotten that these game developers are artists. Let's not dictate to them what they should paint. It's now some people are saying, you shouldn't have done the Last of Us remake. It's not your business to tell Naughty Dog what they should or shouldn't do. These guys are artists. Let them paint, let them do their work, and then we can appreciate. But we've got this entitled gamer has become so common that now we have the audacity to say you shouldn't have made this. You shouldn't have done that. Oh, this is DLC. You know, we keep, even David Jaffe, to be honest, somebody who is there's someone who has done a lot of good work for gaming, still comes and enters this childish thing of labeling Ragnarok DLC looking. You know, I hate how we have begun to trivialize these things and belittle what these devs are doing. And yet we have no concept of how hard it is to have motion matching in games. Very few games have motion matching. And Naughty Dog was, I think, in my opinion, one of the pioneers of introducing motion matching. But the other thing is, if you look at what they did in the last generation, they used the Last of Us remaster in the PS4 generation to improve their tech, and that remaster did not even look as good as what Last of Us 2 ended up looking like. I did not believe that Naughty Dog could improve so greatly within the PS4 era from the remaster to Last of Us 2. So right now, what I'm excited is, if this is their version of Last of Us remaster for the PS5 generation, what will their games look like by the end? Because they used this as a learning tool similar to the remaster in the last one. And I just think there were so many benefits to doing this for the team at an individual level, at a company level, but the belittling and the arrogance and the entitlement of guys on Twitter and media has been so disgusting, to be honest. It's so disappointing.
Preach. Facts.
Well, what we're seeing is the power of influence, and the desire to be heard is overtaking people's integrity and the desire to provide the truth and the facts and unbiased opinions, right? Everyone's eager to judge the game before it comes out, regardless of how you feel about remakes or remasters. At the end of the day, there's only so much you can glean from a video. We need to wait for people to get their hands on it. So to see people be so eager to trip this game before it gets to the starting line should tell you what their desire is, right? They want to make sure that Sony is held in control. They're held in check. Don't do all of these type of games. Let everybody else catch up. Stop breaking these boundaries. Stop giving gamers these fucking tier one experiences that can only be made when you have development teams working in conjunction across all of your studios, because that's what I believe is the true strategy here, which allows them to hit this quality, this bar that nobody else is even coming close to, if we're being honest. Maybe Capcom as a third-party developer is up there, but it's very hard to hit that type of quality. I see we have Social Destruct in here. I'm not sure if you wanted to give a quick take on the interview yesterday and what came across most to you from Michael Mumbauer's information he was sharing.
Hey, Guap, what's up, man? Yeah.
Chilling, my friend. How you doing today?
Good, man. Good. I just wanted to make a comment on the whole leak situation.
Oh man, Twitter Space is acting up. We're gonna get him back as soon as possible. Social, if you can hear me, you would drop down. So we're gonna have to get you back up here.
Just to add to what you were saying, Guap, about the kind of, you know, all the teams working in harmony, kind of working together on different bits and bobs. That actually probably started with the Ice team, if you remember.
Yes, sir.
So I think it's just been built upon that, hasn't it, really? The idea is just kind of being spread. Because I always like the idea of the Ice team. You know, there's a central team kind of working on all the backbone things and all the engines. So it's definitely an interesting way to go. I think it's the right way too. I agree with you.
Well, it makes sense, right? Because even Naughty Dog said when you're wrapping up development on The Last of Us 2, you have a lot of idle hands. So why would you just have those people sit there and wait when you could have them assisting on other projects, regardless of what studio it was at? And not only that, but you also get cross-pollination. So whereas you may have an animator in one department who works on chopping people's heads off, now he can go somewhere else and learn how to shoot a gun and then bring that knowledge back to his home studio. And it just goes on and on from there. People are always sharing ideas and learning from each other. So it's really a beautiful thing, and I'm appreciating the evolution. And that's something that Michael Mumbauer spearheaded. So shout out to him yet again in that regard. But Social, go ahead. It's kicking people out left and right. I'm going to try to keep everything under control.
You hear me now, Guap? Am I good or no?
Yeah, you fine. You good.
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me on for a sec, man. The whole leak thing that really irritates me the most is when you base the game on a leak. That's misrepresentation of the actual game. Like, you can't base anything off
Is it just me, or did he go mute?
Yeah, he's went mute as soon as Wooly joined back up. I think they're clashing with each other, man.
Oh, hey, yeah, sorry guys. I had to quickly leave because my wife was calling me and I couldn't answer the phone. Apologies.
Oh, no problem. You good? We're just trying to get Social's take on the interview yesterday, but for whatever reason, Twitter Spaces is
Here we go.
throwing them all. There you go. You back, Social? We lost you for a second there, Social, but if you're still there, we're listening. We're waiting. You got to unmute your mic. Andy's been booted again. You got to love Twitter Spaces.
It's crazy.
We're going to get him up here to give his take one way or another. But just on the cross-pollination thing, I think it is truly genius when you are having all of these studios. Like, obviously, Sony just got the Nixus team. I believe they're going to become the visual arts of the future. Currently, they're working on porting older PS4 games, or even in the case of the Spider-Man remaster, PS5 versions of games to PC. So once that process is complete, I would like for them to get the opportunity to spearhead new IP of their own. Once they get hands-on with the technology. Obviously, Insomniac has one of the greatest engines in all of gaming. So it's almost like a lesson to be learned. You go in there, you get hands-on with the engine, you see how they're doing their thing, and then you're like, hey, I can do this now. And then maybe you're going to get a project, a side project of your own. Maybe it'll be a smaller standalone title, like what we saw with the Spider-Man Miles Morales, or even the offshoot from Uncharted 4, where you prove yourself, like what we're seeing Visual Arts doing with The Last of Us Part 1, representing an absolutely stellar AAA title with industry-leading visuals coming into the PS5 lineup and giving us another game in that first-party portfolio. Sony's on a roll in that regard in 2022. So it's just awesome to see them firing on all cylinders and having their developers support them, allowing them to hit that high-quality bar across their studios and bringing everybody up. Like Mark Cerny said, a rising tide lifts all boats. And I truly believe that's the philosophy at Sony's first party, and it's working out really well. So I hope they continue to innovate, continue to push the bar, and set new standards in gaming. And I'm looking forward to it. The Michael Mumbauer and John Garvin project, I'm looking forward to that as well. I enjoyed Days Gone, warts and all, right? So hopefully they can iterate on that and bring something new. Obviously, Ben Studio is also coming up with a title as well, which I'm very eager to find out about. Regardless, the next 3 to 4 years as a PlayStation gamer is going to be extremely excited as we see the future of PlayStation 5 start to take hold. Hopefully, we get that information sometime in the near future. I would say after The Last of Us Part 1. But if you guys have anything else to contribute, we do want to get more speakers. Anybody that has any questions about yesterday's show, feel free to send a request. Even if you just want to come up here and say what's up to the guys. Shout out to the Worldwide Company of Gamers podcast, one of the most informative gaming podcasts in the Twitter sphere. So shout out to those guys. I enjoyed the show yesterday. I've been enjoying your shows going back months. Obviously, I've been sharing it out, showing clips just to give people a little taste. Hopefully, they click on that link and they get to listen in and learn more about you guys, because you're definitely impressing me. So anybody that wants to come up here and speak, feel free to send a request. And fellas, if you have anything else you want to add, please feel free to do so.
Anybody requested?
I mean, we have 60 people in here, which is quite an audience. A lot of them are shy. But again, just to give a brief overview, yesterday, Michael Mumbauer of Visual Arts fame gave a detailed rundown about the evolution of cinematic representation in Sony first-party games. He also gave us information regarding the inception of The Last of Us Part 1, how it was designed to help groom talent in the Sony first-party studio lineup, and that's exactly what it's done. Assisting Visual Arts into getting up to that Naughty Dog standard when it comes to game design, engine manipulation, and things of that nature. My friend Muck, what's going on, bro? You had any questions for us today?
Yeah, I just got a slight comment. So when they finished The Last of Us 2, those guys were just sitting around. And I think Sony did the smart thing of saying, hey, instead of laying off all of these people, let's put them to work doing something else so they could not only stay with us, but actually work on some stuff in the meantime, when we're looking to do another IP, and I think if Sony had laid up all them people, the PM nightmare and the Twitter spaces and the journalists would have killed Sony more than they are killing them now for actually putting them to work and rebuilding The Last of Us.
Well, Michael did give some insight on that. He said he actually sat down before the project got off the ground with Sean Layden, and they discussed the entire history of the PlayStation software lineup. And he said they looked at every single game. And then when they look at The Last of Us, and it's like this is the most awarded game at the time, which was voted by the critics to be the game of the generation, or the game of the decade, excuse me. So when he sat down with Sean Layden, he and Sean looked over the PlayStation software lineup in regards to their first party. And they said we have to bring these older experiences to a newer audience because the PlayStation platform is growing exponentially, right? We've heard the story about how it would take the PlayStation 4 8 days to sell 1 million consoles. Now the PlayStation 5 is selling 1 million consoles in 8 minutes, right? So that's a drastic increase in demand as well as representation in the gaming sphere. So don't think The Last of Us Part 1 is going to be one of the few games from Sony to receive this type of treatment. When I heard that, that excited me to an endless extent. People are continuously talking about The Legend of Dragoon, how they want it, Wild Arms, how they want it. And you can go down the line and list Sony games that came from their first party or from second party deals throughout the history. So the fact that Michael Mumbauer sat down with Sean Layden and they laid out a strategy for bringing these games into the modern era was some of the best information I thought came from the podcast yesterday. So,
And I also like how he gave us that insight on what visual arts is and what it do. That was very informative.
Yeah,
yeah.
thanks, Mark. It was 100%. I agree. I love the fact that he brought up the fact that The Last of Us Remake was an opportunity to culminate everything that they had learned and put it into a project that would nurture their growth and their skill set for other games. And like you said about this being a recurring thing, that this isn't going to be the only time that they do this. They already set the standard with they set the standard in PS4 with Shadow of Colossus, right? And Remake. But then Demon Souls kind of really pushed a bar, and people make disingenuous comments. I'd say it's disingenuous in how people say, well, Demon Souls is such a big difference over the original compared to The Last of Us Remake over The Last of Us. But all that literally comes down to is largely color and texture palette. And that's not a fault of
frame rate and resolution.
It's not about the fact that Demon Souls is a bigger leap. Technically, it's a roughly on par, I'd say, with The Last of Us Remake. Maybe The Last of Us Remake is slightly more ambitious because of the physics change. I mean, the Demon Souls added omnidirectional rolling, but the AI was unchanged. There was great quality of life improvements. I'm not shitting
Wooly,
on
right?
it. It was an incredible game. It's worth every penny that I bought it for day one. Go on, sorry, Guap.
But also, Naughty Dog is more technically adept than From Software, especially when you go back to the PS3 generation. The Last of Us was a marvel from a technological standpoint, even during the PS3. I don't know anyone would argue that Demon Souls was a technical marvel. That game was all about the gameplay and the actual experience.
So
but from a technological standpoint, it was light years behind what The Last of Us on PS3 was.
Facts, but also on top of that, The Last of Us Remake is going for realism. There is a lot more restriction on the color palette and the creative palette that you have if you're going for photorealism over fantasy. With fantasy, you can make things completely different. But in The Last of Us, a coat is still a coat. Grass is still grass, trees is still trees, bark is still bark, brick is still brick. And that's the thing that people are underappreciating is it's not in any way, shape, or form technically less impressive than what, for me anyway, it's not than Demon Souls. I'd say both are incredibly impressive remakes. But to see like the this be repeated, where they bring back faithfully older games from Generation 7 and Generation 6, and hell, even maybe Generation 5 of the consoles, and bring them to the standard of Demon Souls and The Last of Us Remake. That will be insane, but only, other development companies have started to follow suit. Look at Dead Space Remake, look at Resident Evil Remake by Capcom, how they've
which
been
mysteriously have zero complaints whatsoever.
Well, the people will then claim and use the narrative. Well, Resident Evil 2 was such a reimagining, and though that's true, you have to appreciate most games from that are being remade from Generation 6 or 5 will be reimagined. Why? Because a lot of them are isometric 2D games. What do you want freaking the next remake to be from a 3D game like The Last of Us? Do you want it to be 4D? That's not possible. So
Why
it's going
didn't
to be.
anybody cry about Resident Evil 3, man? That remake broke my heart. That was the one I was looking forward to the most, and they
cut
ripped out
40% of the
game.
count.
Yeah. Oh,
It's like
it's disgusting, man. I'm actually excited for Last of Us Part 1 because they're pushing the Last of Us 2 engine. That engine was already amazing, and they're making it better. New, better textures. It runs better, better AI. So yeah, this whole idea behind it being a lazy cash grab, I'm just not buying. And to be fair, I think it's actually really unfair on the devs, man. I think that's what's annoying me more than anything. Is you got all these hardworking people busting their backs to get this done for us, and instead of appreciating it, you got people running around putting it down and crying about it instead of looking at what it actually is. It's disheartening sometimes, man.
Facts, Retro. The sad thing, dude. Go on, sorry, Oti.
No. I was just agreeing with the Retro. It's really sad.
And these narratives aren't just being pushed by fanboy console wars who claim to be consumers. It's pushed by big name journalists.
And that's scary. That's what's scary. They're supposed to be impartial. You know what I mean? They're supposed to report the truth.
And these same guys are then trying to land jobs at the competition, and it's like, you can't be an influencer. I hate that term because I think it's silly. Like you're on some kind of bed of neutrality, but you have invested interest in one company over another, and you offer your opinions on both. That's the issue here. If you're going to offer your opinions on both, then don't be trying to get your pocket wet with one of them. It's like it's crazy.
You can't be impartial. If money's coming from one of them and not the other, then you're never gonna be impartial.
Facts.
I see Michael, with your hand up, Muck. My apologies, Odie. What were you gonna say, Odie? Then we'll roll over to Muck, and then your friendly PlayStation guy.
I was gonna say that Michael said he respects the doers. Right now, the video gaming industry, and I had mentioned it during the podcast. I respected video game journalists a lot more in the 90s, the era of Games Master. There was something pure and genuine about what was the motivation when they were covering video games, and tribalism and self-interest. Because you see, the thing is, clicks, these guys on YouTube, some of them now are motivated by the clicks more than the content. It's become very evident. But the thing that bothers me also is the fact that a guy like Dreamcast guy will tell you this remake did not deserve to be made, and at the end of the video tell you he is going to play it. So he's discouraging others from playing it, but he will not deny himself what he knows is going to be a great game. So he's a snake, a viper. He's just a useless, two-faced person. If he truly believes it, then don't buy it. But you get all these influencers, Pio, Dreamcast guy, MBG, all of them without fail will buy and play that game. RDX podcast, all without fail, will buy and play that game. But you get them telling others not to do it, and I find that just disingenuous.
Well, I just shared a Dreamcast guy tweet
Bro,
from 13 hours ago where he's saying he wants to play a Bloodborne remaster for $70 and all it needs is better frame rate and resolution.
Oh.
So he doesn't actually need his remasters to be more than 10 years old, which is a lot of people said it was too soon to remake The Last of Us Part 1. Conversely, here he is begging for a game that's
Man,
barely
he
7
doesn't
years
know.
old.
He doesn't know what the fuck he wants. He doesn't know what the
So
fuck he wants.
here
He's as
he is
conflicted and
asking
confused as ever.
here he is asking for a $70 Bloodborne remake, which Bloodborne isn't even it's barely 7 years old, so it's younger, so it's okay for Bloodborne, a younger game than The Last of Us Part 1, to have a remake. It's a problem when The Last of Us is rebuilt totally from the ground up with new assets, animation, enemy AI, but here he is promoting a Bloodborne remake, but only saying all it needs is a frame rate and a resolution boost, and that alone would be fucking worth $70. So I just want to be clear, fuck that guy, because he's a total hypocrite.
Yeah,
And
fuck
there's your
him.
evidence at
I'm
the
with
top
you.
of the screen.
Fuck him.
With that said,
You know what's sad?
I'm going to roll
The
over
thing
to...
is, Guap, sorry, I'll just say, and it'll only take me 10 seconds. The thing is, Guap, the biggest thing that bothers me, and to sum it up, is this: shitting on quality. Quality that you haven't made. All you do is talk. You're not a doer, you're a talker. And I'm not saying you, I'm literally saying that this is who these people are who shit on quality and dog it. Why? Because it's not the price they want it to be day one and they don't want to fucking wait for it. Go fucking figure. Just because if I can't afford God of War Ragnarok day one because I don't have the money for a $70 game, that doesn't mean that it's not worth the retail price. It just means I can't afford it. So if you don't want to freaking buy it day one because it's not within your budget, don't. But don't shit on quality that people have spent years of their life, years of their limited life, freaking making because they have a vision and they want to realize it. It's just some bullshit, man.
Total hypocrisy. I'm at a loss for words in that regard. To say that a Bloodborne remake wouldn't even need to have any ground up new features, that you would be satisfied with a frame rate and a resolution bump, and that alone would be worth 70, when we have evidence with The Last of Us Part 1, with tons of new from the ground up features, being the AI, the animation system, the destructible environments. It's just total hypocrisy. Muck, what's going on, bro?
I want to comment on the cash grab thing. So I think Last of Us is a cash grab, just like how Tesla put in certain features of their cars behind our paywall, just like how all of these other companies ask you for cash for the same shit. All these companies want money. So if you act like only one company doing the cash grab thing, that's how companies are run. They, so so people saying it's a cash grab is wrong. I bought a pair of shoes for $150 in 2016. That same pair of shoes is almost $300 now. That's a cash grab. All of these companies need cash and want cash. So when people say, oh, it's a cash grab, like it's a bad thing, all these companies are cash grab because they need cash to function. I really don't understand like how they make it sound like
Well,
a bad
any
thing.
luxury item, right? Any luxury item is a cash grab because you don't need it,
Exactly.
right? You need
Exactly. You
water,
don't need
you
it.
need food, you need shelter. Um, Gaming is a
Mm.
hobby. Obviously, it's a luxury. It's near and dear to all of our heart. But at the end of the day, any luxury could be considered a cash grab.
But
They're using it.
that
They're
depends
using
on
it as a
definition.
derogatory. They're using it as a derogatory term to downplay people's hard work, and that's where it rubs me the wrong way. We do have Social Destruct back up here. I just want to get his take before Twitter Spaces boots him again. I don't know what you did to the Twitter gods, bro, but
Yeah,
they
man.
got to
I don't know,
axe the
man.
grind.
I did an update, so hopefully this is the last time, man. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah. Whenever you're having issues with Twitter Spaces, check your software updates for the app. Usually that's the case, which is what he did.
Yeah, the whole comment about cash grab, it's like essentially, it's like no matter what game you buy, is a cash grab. I mean, no. I mean, essentially, I mean, anything that you buy in for the hobby you enjoy, you consider a cash grab because you're buying it. So I don't understand the whole point. It's like whatever you value, that's what you value. If you don't want to buy it, then you don't buy it. I mean, everybody has a different value of what they think whatever is worth to them. So I don't the throwing the cash grab or forcing, saying, well, why are you spending $70? It's like, look, this isn't the first time. We paid for games that were much more than $70 back in the day, if you remember, Nintendo. You know what I mean? So this whole cash grab nonsense just really just irritates me to no end. Like
I
you
mean,
said.
so cool. Who doesn't buy the Donkey Dick edition if you're going to get a game? Normally, if you buy a game, you get in the deluxe edition or, So, I don't know. I
Donkey
just think
Dick
this
edition.
whole
I love
crap
it.
about price is a bit silly, isn't it?
Yeah, like the whole narrative is dumb, right? Because there are two ways you can define cash grab. One, that relatively low, little to no effort has been put into a product for immediate monetary gain, right? So if you're going to call something a cash grab, by that definition, you're implying that little to no effort has gone into The Last of Us Remake, which is just complete bullshit, right? From what we can see. The other definition is basically something is done with the primary purpose of making money. That means that every motherfucking game is a cash grab by that definition. But if it's the sole purpose of making money, then that again and that's within the same definition. Ironically, it says under cash grab the sole or primary purpose of making money. If it's the sole purpose of making money, that means again little to no effort has been put into the product. Because if your effort isn't into making a product because you want it to be this vision that you have because you're creative and you're an artist and you pride yourself in your work, then it's not going to be. Then money isn't going to be the sole reason you're making it, right? So both definitions of the word cash grab do not fit this narrative. You actually address the way that they're using it, and they buck and run. They can't answer with logic because they know that it's bullshit what they're saying. They can't you can't tell me, you can't look at what we've just seen in that 10-minute demonstration of Naughty Dog and tell me that that's little to no effort or the primary reason to make money. When Michael Mumbauer himself literally said last night on my podcast, on the Worldwide Company of Gamers podcast, that The Last of Us Remake was made for visual arts to nurture their talent and growth. That literally his own words in essence. So there are multiple reasons why The Last of Us Remake was made, but making money it's a fucking business, and if you as a consumer forget how business works, that there is a relative you as a customer. Your position is relative. You can't just take. You can't have the cake and eat it. Business is mutual. It's an exchange, not a charity. And people are in this mindset today, and it's all thanks to freaking journalism. Going back to the title from 2 years ago, $70 worth too much, blah blah blah, questioning the retail price of shit because they don't want to wait for a sale. That this narrative even began, and sadly, it's proliferated. And it's just. People aren't focusing on the product anymore, but why they can't have that product for free. That's what people are focusing on. And they're not focusing on game experiences anymore either. They're focusing on whether that game experience was worth their money or is worth their money or not. When people with this attitude look at God of War Ragnarok, all they see is a price tag. What I see is pairing up with the son of future Loki, freaking Fenrir, fighting freaking Surtur, Odin, and Thor. That's what I look at. I look at this insane swashbuckling adventure that I cannot physically wait for. I'm dying to play it. I'm dying to play The Last of Us Remake and experiment with the environmental physics. Look at the destruction. Look at Ellie as she's telling me about shit in game and see the facial animations and see how it all works. Look at Joel and how he interacts with Tess and how Tess moves and how the game feels different and improved. Like, I cannot wait for that and to relive that story and one of the greatest games ever made in the fidelity that goes beyond The Last of Us 2. That's going to be absolutely incredible. Oh, but Joel can't fucking crawl. Get the fuck over yourself.
But the
You know,
thing is,
Wally,
you can't
oh,
base
sorry,
an
sorry.
opinion off of a leak. That's misrepresentation of what the final game is going to be. You can't
Big facts.
judge
That's all they've got is that leak.
off of a
They
leak.
keep going back to the leak. They keep going back to it. They don't show you the footage of the gameplay that Naughty Dog revealed because they know the leak looks so much shitter.
You know, Wally. Me and Social were just discussing this the other day. Like with Gran Turismo 7. You know, the fun we keep on having on the weekends. We were just saying it. The amount of fun we have gained from that game is priceless. And if I was rich, I would even pay $1,000 for Gran Turismo 7 just because of what I have experienced. It's priceless to me. I'm not saying that I want to go now and spend $1,000, but if I had that loose kind of money, I would send it to the devs just because what they have given me in terms of fun is priceless. And the way I look at video games nowadays is I look at it as art. And I think that people need to understand that if you can't afford it at launch, video games is one of these hobbies where the speed at which these things depreciate. By the time this thing can launch for $70 and in 3 months you can get it for 50, there is no need to cause hysteria as if you need to play it at launch, especially for a remake where you already know the story. So what these guys are doing is they're making a fuss over nothing because they're impatient. And that to me makes no sense. And when it comes to the price of things, I think it's up to the individual. Like for Paris is complaining that it's not worth $70, and people like me who are gonna buy it day one are a problem for the community. But yet I can't afford his Tesla. I didn't ask him to wait until I could afford a Tesla so that he can get it. So I don't understand the logic that these people are using when it comes to criticizing people who want to go and get it day one. If I find value in it, then it's me who finds value in it. They don't have to agree with me or criticize me.
The thing too, Odie, that I worry about is with the new God of War. If a leak happens for God of War, will people react the same way to Ragnarok, saying it's shit? If a leak comes out again, you know what I'm saying? Like, this sets a precedence going forward with any game that's coming out. I'm seeing a lot of
guys,
everything off the final game.
I have no doubt, Social, that they will, because the fact that they still again refer to the leaks rather than the official gameplay shows that their intentions aren't genuine. It's
Yeah,
just
they
noise.
have an agenda. They have an axe to grind. If you are an influencer, there's money. There's more money in handicapping Sony than telling the truth, and there's more money in boosting Xbox than there is telling the truth, because there's more ground to make up, right? When you root for the underdog, if you're into betting, right? Obviously you always want to bet on the underdog because if they win, it'll make you fucking rich. And I think with a lot of influencers, that's what we're seeing. With that said, we do have a few new panel members here. Welcome to the Pegasus Corner, fellas. This is the first time I believe you've been here. I'm going to roll over to PlayStation Madness. Then we're going to go to Spencer, then Doomsayer. Um, PlayStation Madness, what's your take? Did you catch the interview on the Worldwide Company of Gamers podcast? What are some of the insights that you may have heard from Mr. Michael Mumbauer, one of the true visionaries in the gaming industry today?
Hey, can you hear me?
Loud and
Can
clear.
you
Loud
hear
and
me?
clear, homie. Loud
What's
and
good,
All
clear.
right,
You
all
good?
right. I'm from Sweden, so English ain't my native tongue, but I'll manage. Hey, Odie,
Hey, shout out
Retro,
to Sweden.
Social,
Shout
Mr.
out to
Wally
Sweden,
Wally,
man.
Guap. Hope y'all good
We
and
global out here in the
everything.
Pegasus Corner. We
Yeah,
global,
man. Yeah,
baby.
man. I didn't actually hear the part I wanted to hear, but I had my third baby girl was awake, so I had to like take care of my little baby girl. So I didn't manage to hear the podcast, but I just wanted to talk about The Last of Us Part 1 as a whole. Like I'm gonna hype it up now because that people don't understand. This is a next generation game. All right. You know, Sony, they've been raising the bar since day one. Demon Souls, Ratchet, Eternal, and Horizon Forbidden West, and that's even a cross-gen game. But that shit raises that shit on a different type of level. And we know Naughty Dogs, all right? I've been gaming since 35 years. Yeah, 35 years way back. And I've been gaming since the PS1 era. And Naughty Dogs, they've always raising the damn ball. People don't. When The Last of Us Part 1, when that game is gonna come out to the masses, trust me on this. People are going to get the haters. They're going to get jealous. They're going to do the memes, and they're going to they're going to do screenshots and like zoom in like 800 times in a flower and call, oh, look at that shitty model. Now that game is we're going to be proud of Naughty Dogs, man. Now, I want to give a shout out to Robin Morrison. He's actually a dev. He's in this space right now and listening. He's a part of the dev team who made The Last of Us Part 1. He's in this space, guys. So I want to give a shout out to Robert
Hey, Robert
Morrison,
the
my
homie,
man.
Robert the
Yeah,
homie. Shout out to
Robo, I heard
Robert.
you.
Good work on
I
God of
heard you
War. I'm
went.
looking forward to
Yep.
your work on The Last of Us Part 1 as well.
Yeah,
And
excited
also
as
your
well.
future with Studio Ben, man. I'm hyped.
Yeah, same here. Congratulations and thank you, my man, for your hard work, brother. Thank you.
Reach.
So I'm just stay positive, game on, and I'm so freaking hyped for The Last of Us Part 1. One more thing, The Last of Us Part 1 and Bloodborne, that's my 2 favorite games of all time. That's my GOAT games, all right? So I don't give a fuck if I replay The Last of Us 1 like 5 or 6 times. This is next generation. People don't know. The facial expressions, the animation, the draw distance, the lightning, the physics, even the people, the dual sense. Come on now. You can feel the shotgun in your goddamn hands.
Everything,
Even
man.
the stroke of a damn giraffe, my man.
Bro, it's
You can
crazy
feel
when
that shit.
that truck is
been
chasing you on
And
the
people are
bridge.
complaining about the $70. Man, come on now. I'm fucking tired of that shit. That's 2020. That's 2 years old now. People.
Here's the thing.
It's economics. That's economics, man. I've
Here's
been
the
buying
thing.
games since 30 years back, and I bought PS1 games for $50 to $60 a pop. That's 30 years ago, man. 25 years ago.
People take their spouse out for a lunch and it's cost them 50
Exactly.
quid.
That's
You know,
economical.
it's like when you think of like dollar or pound sterling for time, like games are extremely relatively
Yeah.
cheap. Like when you actually think about other things that are like that cost so much a higher premium, considering like their, I guess you could say, their disposability. Like these are experiences that sit with you. You pay 30 quid to go to the movies, and you make an experience of it.
Exactly.
It's like people are just being like, what I can't understand is people will conflate a game's retail price with, I don't want to wait for a sale, but I want it to be a sales price. And it's like, you can't have the fucking cake and eat it. Like that's not called being a consumer. That's called being a loudmouth Generation Z.
That's idiotic.
It's
just like Odie
it's being
said.
entitled, bro.
Yeah, it's just like Odie said. If you don't want to buy it day one, fucking don't buy it day one. Wait for 3-4. Wait till Black Friday, like 2 months.
Bunch of
It's gonna go down to
the
40, 50
Veruca
bucks.
Salts. I want it now, Daddy. I want it now.
Yeah, but I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna buy it day
Veruca
one
Salt, whatever her
because
name is, out of Willy Wonka. That's
I'm gonna buy it day
literally
one. The Last of Us 1. That was the first game. I've been gaming for 35 years. That shit, I dropped a tear.
guys.
That info.
Bro,
I have
that
3 baby
seriously
daughters, all
broke
right?
my
I have
heart.
3 baby daughters. That game is etched in my heart, my man.
Big facts. Guys, I'm really sorry. My wife has come home, and I'm gonna have to get off.
Yeah, my brother.
But guys,
shout out to you,
thank
Wooly.
you.
Always a
Thank
pleasure,
you
bro.
for an awesome
Thanks for the
spaces, for
interview.
listening to me rant. Sorry for my language at times. I get a little passionate. But yeah, by all means, guys, hit the link that Guapzilla has posted to the Company of Gamers podcast, and check it out. Where the interview with Mumbauer last night was a thing of beauty. 90 minutes of just absolute stellar.
I'm gonna listen to it, bro. I was trying to listen to it yesterday.
learning.
I was live, but I had to go because of my baby girl.
Yeah,
She was
no,
crying.
no sweat. I think I'm gonna take a week's break from Twitter. To be honest,
Yeah.
guys, I'm just gonna chill for a bit because I've been this last week with ADHD and Asperger's and shit. When because of this interview with Mumbauer, it was a big build up in my mind. I hadn't slept for a week, and I was like proper like on edge about it and nervous and excited and I think I've just burnt out. So I think that's why I'm so ill today. Is it's all just kind of come back to kind of hit me like a brick in the face. It's because I'm passionate and I just love it. So I think I'm gonna keep Twitter to a minimum from this point forward for the next week, and just chill for a bit. But thank you to every one of you, Guap. You're a legend, brother, for setting this up and for giving a spotlight on not only Michael Mumbauer but also the Worldwide Company of Gamers podcast. I know that Retro and OT, we as a panel really do appreciate it. And thank you for all that you do for the
Much
gaming
love,
community.
fellas. You guys already know I'm in your corner. Keep doing the work, and the love and adulation will come. So shout out to you. Get some rest, man. Get back on your
I
feet, bro.
appreciate you. I'm going to go now.
Also,
But also,
Willie,
shout out to Robert Morrison. We love you, pal. Thank you for all that you do. Just ignore all the naysayer
Hey, you
haters.
got to get Robert on the Company of Gamers once The Last of Us
I'd love
Part
him,
1
man.
drops.
I'd love him. We'll always respect NDA, and if ever we can get you on, if Sony allows it, Robert, just know it would be our absolute freaking honor. Check out our interview with NXG and of Michael Mumbauer and see what you think. And if you're down, please feel free to reach out to me. I won't pressure you by any means, and just know that we as a community really do appreciate you, despite a vocal minority who like to shit on quality. So yeah, peace out, guys. Stay awesome.
Willie, before you peace out, when you come back to Twitter.
So, guys, that was the bulk of the main stuff. I listened to the rest of it, and a lot of it was just more of the same, really. But overall, it was just an amazing Spaces, and I wanted to share it with you guys. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed that conversation from Guap, OT, Retro, myself, Social Destruct, PS Madness, and also Sticks. He made some incredible points later on in the show. He used a phenomenal analogy, but sadly got cut off. He lost connection mid-analogy regarding the attitudes of people, how they don't question the price of premium products elsewhere, but with gaming it seems to be the only thing they can talk about now. It's as if price of mine and probably your favorite hobby is the sole leverage used to try to shit on quality, and it's a real shame. It's a real shame. But yeah, guys, that was the Twitter Spaces with Guapzilla that he hosted. Shout out to him. He really kind of put in the work there in helping share out the phenomenal episode 30 that we had with Michael Mumbauer on the Worldwide Company of Gamers podcast. I'll put the link to the actual podcast and interview with Michael Mumbauer down in the description below for you guys to have a look at if you're interested. If you haven't seen it yet, it's definitely worth checking out. It was phenomenal. Anyway, guys, you take care. Thank you very much for watching. Just remember to not be a donut, use your noggin. And just know that I appreciate every single one of you. So take care, guys. All the best. Cheers.